Yusuf, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast again today. It's fantastic to have you back on. Of course, it's my 2 year anniversary now with Baker's Chatcast, which is absolutely crazy. But you were where it all began back in January 2021. You were the first ever guest to appear on the channel. But firstly, how is it going for you?
Well, yeah, pleasure as always. But yeah, really, really good. Really happy at the minute. Obviously, the borough's playing well. I moved house recently as well. I used to live in Wembley, now I live in Streatham, so which is South London. So at the moment, yeah, really, really good. Can't complain. And yourself, how you doing?
Very good, of course. It's an anniversary for this podcast, which is really good, and keep getting guests and keep going from strength to strength. So really happy, and of course the Middlesbrough form at the minute, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But I've got one question off football topic first for you. Of course, 2 years ago, not long ago, for only a few days back, it was 2 years since we first sat down to have our first chat for the first ever episode, which I'm sure I've come a long way since. I'm pretty sure you'll remember there was quite a few technical errors. It took us a while to actually get on and speak, but I'm going to say what memories do you have of that first recording? Because I'll let you explain because there was quite a few errors there, wasn't there?
Well, I wouldn't say errors. I think it's learning. At the end of the day,
That's
but
it.
my mentality has always been, you either win or you learn. Do you know what I mean? There's no such thing as losing and stuff. So at the end of the day, yeah, it was the first time things were bound to go wrong. And quite a few things did go wrong. It took about half an hour, 45 minutes to actually get the the interview started. We had to change app, and I think you had to record it off your dad's phone at one stage. I can't remember exactly the full details. It was, yeah, but we got there. We got there in the end, and obviously, I think you've changed the model a bit because at the start it was just the audio, sorry. Whereas now, obviously, you've got the video as well as the audio, so you've obviously changed that as well. So no, I just have, yeah, really positive memories. Yeah, because we started the interview and then it stopped, and then we had to restart again, and so I had to answer the same questions again.
I remember
But
that.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's just the way it goes sometimes. Things never run sort of smoothly, and the fact that you're still continuing 2 years later, I'm sure it hasn't been easy. But the fact that you've continued shows, it's great credit to yourself. So you should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you, Yusuf, and always grateful for the support. And I do remember that I had to record it off a phone, and then we had to stop it and then restart it again. But good memories, like you say, everything's learning. And because I did, it was initially just the audio, and then I had people say to me, "Well, it's on YouTube. Have we got anything we could watch as well, rather than just a blank screen?" So that's when I
Mm,
incorporated the video, and here we are today. So my first,
mm.
we're going to obviously cover the whole season about Middlesbrough, but my first question is, I have to talk about where we currently are. But before we come back to this later on, but we're absolutely flying at the minute, aren't we? I mean, this is probably the best Middlesbrough team I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, for you probably seen football as good with like the Ravanelli, Janino era, but for myself, this is probably the best I've ever seen, and I think we're just flying at the minute.
Yeah, we're playing really, really well at the minute. We're having different type of wins. That's what I'm really, really pleased about. The win against Blackpool was very, very different to the win against Watford last week. So they're different ends of the table. We're beating teams that are in a relegation zone, the likes of Blackpool and Wigan and teams like that. But we're also beating teams that are on near the top of the table, the likes of Watford and Blackburn, and you know what I mean. And we're
Norwich
also beating.
away.
Exactly. Away get, yeah, but Blackburn away, that was good. And we're also beating mid-table sides as well. So we're winning different types of games. Obviously, we're not going to win every game. We lost against Sunderland a couple of weeks ago. That was one of the worst performances under Carrick. But on the whole, I think Carrick's lost us. Is it 3 league games?
Yeah,
Um, I think it's just 3 league games.
incredible
And I think
record.
one draw, I think, or 2 draws. So something
I,
like that. But yeah,
I
the
think it.
majority
I
of
think it's won 10, drawn one, lost three out of 14 games. So that's it's a fantastic record for.
100%. Yeah, no, 100%. And he's making players get better as well. The likes of Marcus Forss in the form of his life, Riley McGree. Certainly since the World Cup, he's been like something else. On that left hand side, a little bit people were a bit, asking a few questions, but he's showing what he can do. And the squad, I mean, look at Matt Crooks against, Blackburn, against Birmingham City. He's got some vital goals for us, vital performances. And we're winning late games. I mean, look at Luton, the Luton game, last minute winner Crooks again.
Yeah.
So we're having different types of results, um, different options. Squad is as strong as ever. I mean, the bench. I mean, I think one of your favorite players, Anthony Dykstra, wasn't even in the squad. Do you know what I mean? In the last game, and that just tells you just how strong the squad is. And yeah, when everyone is 100% fit, because we've still got Jacob Ramsey, not Jacob. I keep calling him Jacob Ramsey. Aaron Ramsey.
That's who I thought we. That's who I
Yeah,
thought we'd signed Jacob. I thought I was reading.
yeah,
I thought, doesn't he start week in week out for
yeah,
Villa?
yeah.
Why is he? And then I realised it was the one that was on loan at Norwich.
Yeah, his younger brother. But yeah, so when Aaron Ramsey gets fit, there's going to be someone else not making the squad. So yeah, the squad's just going to get, really, really, stronger and stronger. But that's what you want. You want the players to fight for the spot. Dale Fry was playing, got sent off against Sunderland, but then Paddy McNair came on last game. McNair was excellent, and he kept his place in the team. Against Blackpool, scored a goal. Fry was on the bench. But that's what you want. You want players to keep working hard. So now McNair and Lenihan are going to work so hard. We've brought in the lad from Rotherham, Dan Barlaser or Barlasa. I can't pronounce.
He looked excellent on Saturday again.
Really, really good
When he came.
But that's going to make Howson and Hackney work even harder, because they know if they underperform, they've got Dan Barlasa behind him. So, but that's what you want. You want strength and depth. You want players to step up. And let's not forget people like Isaiah Jones. I mean, a lot of people have written him off, but he's only young. You don't turn into a bad player overnight. He's in a bad run of form. Of course he is, but it's a long season, and I'm sure we'll see him get back to his best. But like you said, we're in an unbelievable run of form at the minute. The team, the squad's really, really good. Obviously, in your lifetime, there was the Aitor Karanka team, but that was such a good, solid defensive team. And we only needed one goal. This team, I think, is probably
scoring more goals, aren't we? Yeah.
Scoring more goals. I mean, it's difficult to compare, because obviously then we had Ayala and Gibson at the back, Clayton Ledbetter in the middle. We had Gaston, up front or just behind the striker, like a Doma out wide. It was, George Friend was an unbelievable run of form, and Sui. It's a good side, really, really good side. So it's be interesting to see what team will win. The Karanka team that got promoted, or this team. It'll be very, very, very interesting. But this is what we want, and we just got to keep going, because you never know. We could get a second spot. I know is it 10 points behind Sheffield United, but people are saying, "Oh, Sheffield United got a game in hand" or whatever, but they've still got to win that game. We've got the points in the bag. I'd rather be, in front of them, having won the games, rather than saying we're one, or two games in hand, because those games are still yet to be played. We've got our points, plus we've got to play Sheffield United. So yeah, things are looking really good. So we've just got to keep going.
We'll certainly talk a lot about this later on, but I want to sort of go back to the start of the season now again, because I know probably if me and you spoke back in July time, before the transfer window began, or end of last season, we probably wouldn't have expected things to have gone the way they did up until this point this year. But of course, we had a strong last half of the season under Chris Wilder last year, narrowly missing out on the playoffs, had a great FA Cup run and all of that. But all of us kind of thought in the summer, right, Chris Wilder's a great manager, back him, and we can probably be fighting for the top spots in the league this year. How did you view all of that, Yusuf? Because I was certainly one that bought into it and thought, Wilder, right, what a manager he is. We've got a great manager in our hands. He's going to do something this season.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of Borough fans felt that as well, because he got a feel-good factor back last season.
Yeah,
He changed it around, doesn't it? There was a bit of doom and gloom. I know there was a little bit of positivity that Neil Warnock brought back, but that was obviously in COVID. We weren't in the grounds. Then we finally got back allowed in the grounds. There was a few poor performances under Warnock. Things weren't looking great. But Wilder came in and he just changed the system. I know Warnock played it a few times, but he stuck to that, wing back system. We played really, really well. He got unbelievable. The back three in Fry, Dyke, Still, and McNair was like up there with the very best in the league, in my opinion. We had Isaiah Jones, unreal. Getting plenty of assists on the right hand side. On the left, he brought in Neil Taylor, who was solid, did a really good job competing with Bowler. And things were looking really, really, really good. Do you know what I mean? Defensively, we look good. He got some unbelievable results. It's around about this time last year, where we had, I think we beat Sheffield United on Boxing Day. Not Nottingham Forest. Sorry, we beat Nottingham Forest on Boxing Day, 2-0. That was a really good performance. Then I think we beat Blackpool 3 days later. Watmore, last minute winner. That was unreal scenes. Then we had like the FA Cup little run. Beating Mansfield and whatnot, and then I think we beat Reading 2-1 last minute. Crooks, that was a really good feeling where Crooks scored a last minute winner against Reading, and beating Tottenham. That was the best Riverside atmosphere that I've certainly been to.
Beginning of March, that was unbelievable, like that match. I mean, I'm sure you'll probably know because we really like Arsenal as well, because my dad's been as well as Borough, he's liked Arsenal his whole life. So to be a Borough fan beating Tottenham, but then to have the Arsenal factor pulled in as well, it just felt even better.
Yeah, no, I could imagine. I can really, really imagine. And against Tottenham, it wasn't even a case of we rode our luck. United, we rode our luck because United should have probably beaten us in normal time because they had like 3 or 4 unbelievable chances. They hit the post. They missed some sitters. They missed a penalty as well from Ronaldo. So it was a case of, we've definitely rode a luck against United, took it to penalties and won. Obviously, let's not forget the Watmore handball, rode a luck there as well. So there's plenty of things that we rode our luck with, but Tottenham, we did not ride our luck at all. We deserved that win. We were the better team, in my opinion. We could have, scored a second where I think Balogun, an Arsenal player, did a bit of tricks, whipped it in, and then and then Coburn stuck his leg out and missed it. So we had a couple of chances, and it was Tottenham against Harry Kane, Hugo Lloris, Eric Dyer,
full strength, wasn't it? Yeah,
Kulievski and Son. It was like literally their strongest 11. Like everyone was on the, that was a team that you'd expect. And you could say that same about United as well. I know Dean Henderson started apart from except De Gea, but it's virtually their strongest 11, because even against United, they had Sancho and Ronaldo and, they had Harry Maguire at the back. They had Bruno Fernandes, Pogba, like they're all playing. But like I said, we rode our luck in that game. We didn't ride our luck against Spurs. We were the better side. And atmosphere at the end, I mean, I've never heard "Oh Wow" sung so loudly. It was absolutely fantastic. And it was such a feel-good factor. And then the Burnley links. The Burnley links happened.
Because I think you're right there. I think there was a feel-good factor, as you say. I mean, I remember when Wilder did an interview with BBC Radio Tees, I texted in and that got read out, and I explained about how he brought my passion back for going to matches again. And I think there was ambition that came back because we knew we were trying to fight for something. And the FA Cup, fantastic, especially that Tottenham. I mean, to this day, that midfield performance from Johnny House is probably one of the best performances I've seen from a midfielder watching football. That was superb. And then got knocked out to Chelsea when we sort of started to dip a little bit. Maybe people were a bit tired as well after the cup, but the Burnley links came, and I feel maybe did put a little bit of a dent in Wilder's tenure at Middlesbrough. But what do you think about them Burnley links? Because personally, if I'm speaking, and my opinion is he should have maybe shut them links down a little bit earlier than when he did.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I think our match, can't remember what game it was, and Sky Sports, they asked him, and the interviewer has every right to ask, because sorry, go on.
Huddersfield on Boxing Day, I remember. No, I'm sorry, Huddersfield. It was
Easter Monday.
Easter Monday. That was it.
Good Friday. Was it Good Friday or Easter Monday?
It was Easter Monday, I think. Yeah, it was. I think it was 12:30, and it was like the links were quite rife at the time, weren't they? And everything.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah. Because Good Friday was Bournemouth away, and then we had Huddersfield Easter Monday, and yeah, the interviewer, we're live on Sky. The interviewer said, "I have to ask you this question," and straight away it was like, "No, you don't. You don't have to ask me. You don't have to." And straight away it was like a defensive, kind of answer rather than listening to the question and then saying, "Yes, I'm interested," or "No, I'm not interested," or whatever. It was like, I don't have to answer that question. And then, of course, it went silent from that Monday all the way to Friday's press conference. Everything, all the rumors were going on Twitter, etc., etc. And then Friday there was a press conference. That's when he finally said, "I'm all in. I'm all in with Borough. I don't want to leave, etc." But why didn't you say that on the Monday? That's the only thing that I've got to say. Well, why didn't you just say, I'm committed, fully committed to this football club until I'm told otherwise, rather than saying you don't have to ask me that question? Because he's, the interviewer was asking a question that all the Borough fans wanted to know, because we were confused because Burnley had sacked Sean Dyche, and obviously Wilder was the bookie's favourite. So, we're bound to want to know. But yeah, it was a real disappointing answer. And I remember thinking at the time, I felt really heartbroken because I bought into everything that the gaffer did. I remember, what he did, especially like the Tottenham result, and, the song "Oh Wilder Said," it was just something about it just made the atmosphere at the Riverside. I mean, it's even though we're on a real good run of form at the minute, not having that song is not. It's something's missing. I can't really explain it, but something's missing.
Yeah, I know.
It united the whole fan base, the whole ground. Because if you look at the other songs, we sing it and then it's finished after 30 seconds. But Oh Wilder Said, we could sing it for literally 5 minutes straight because it goes for the Borough all night long, and then we start again. Oh, and it just goes on and on and on. But it's something's kind of missing, and yeah, the atmosphere is good, but yeah, I think it would be nice to have that song back for sure.
Certainly, I agree, and it's hard because I agree, because if you're committed to a football club, you just come out and say that immediately. And to this day, I believe there was quite a lot. I think he was interested in that Burnley job, and I don't know, but I have a feeling he probably did get an interview and probably did speak about it. But we picked up, we moved on under Wilder, had a positive summer, believed that he would bring in the right players that we wanted to see to improve the football club and take us somewhere this season. But of course, a poor start to the season, winning only 2 of his first 11, left was in a bad position near the bottom of the table, only 1 point off relegation zone, and Wilder was sacked. What did you think of Wilder's sacking back in October, Yusuf?
Yeah, obviously, we took 22nd in the table. It wasn't good. The performances weren't bad, but something wasn't quite right. If you listen to his press conferences, it wasn't a happy camp. The players didn't look very happy. Something just wasn't quite right. We're not quite sure what it was. I mean, he was still post-match interview. I think he had to go at Dyke still in his last game against Coventry. He was like, "Oh, Dyke still made a mistake. You can't be doing that." Blah 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 blah. I think he called out Del Fry, called out Paddy McNair. So individuals, and I think when the manager starts doing that, it makes the camp unhappy. I'm not saying managers shouldn't call players out, but when it becomes like a regular thing, you've got to start thinking, is that motivating the players or not? You know what I mean? Because if you look at the very best managers, like how often do you see Pep, slate his players so publicly, or Klopp, or these big managers? They don't. I mean, I'm not saying he should not criticize the players, of course, but I think it's the choice of words, because no one even mentioned Dyke still against Coventry. He decided to mention Dyke still. He could have said we could have defended that goal better, but he deliberately never mentioned his name.
Yeah,
and that I don't think that was correct, really, because it wasn't even Dyke Still's fault, to be honest. Because you look at certain games last season where Joe Lumley made a mistake or whatever, but he didn't go out and say, "Oh, Joe Lumley," etc., etc. Do you know what I mean?
Didn't.
Which I'm not saying he should have, but I'm saying, why is he picking and choosing? I mean, Aaron Connolly had some, shocking performances. but again, there was no like calling out or whatever. So it's that thing where I think you've got to be very, very careful what you say, certainly in the media. Um, but yeah, that's my kind of take on it.
I agree because I sort of felt the same about that. He shouldn't have been calling players out the way he did because it it was quite a regular occurrence towards the end of his time at Middlesbrough. He was doing it a lot, which I believe isn't something you should do because it's not gonna fire up your players. It's gonna lower the confidence, and that's not what you want. And I remember that day because we were away at Coventry. Me and my dad had gone to a Mask United match up at South Shields, and we had BBC Tees on our journey back from Tyneside, and we were listening, and we heard him say like the words as well. I'll have a career going for. He said something about I'll have a career going forward after this, and something about his CV and everything. It was like almost all about him and his interviews. But like there was something which almost at times he could have been a little bit arrogant, like the way he was calling out players and going on about himself. Maybe wasn't the right way to go about things, and it's a shame because I did like Chris Wilder and I do think he's a good manager. I think he's got a brilliant record in the EFL. And I still believe he could go to another job and succeed. But I think it was a shame the way it ended at Middlesbrough because I almost think, yeah, some of the interviews and some of his remarks were questionable.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, I really thought, the good times were coming back because the performances, the feel good factor of last season was so, so good. Peterborough away. Even when we ended the season, we finished obviously seventh. We lost 4-1 at Preston, but we're losing 4-1. Yet the 5,000 Borough fans that were there were singing like non-stop. Again, "Oh Wow, the Said" song, and it was like such a powerful song. I mean, it's probably a little bit what's the word? It's almost a little bit uh, what's the word I'm trying to say? But because yeah, if you look at it, you've got like everyone in that song is not really featuring. I mean, Wilder's been sacked. McNair, I know he's got back in the side, but he was like on the bench. Isaiah Jones, on the bench. Crooks on the bench. So yeah, it was almost a little bit yeah, can't think of the word that I'm thinking of, but it was like yeah, it was but I hope we have another song for sure that can unite the fan base again.
Michael Carrick is appointed as Chris Wilder's successor. What were your initial thoughts on him? Because when we did the list of candidates, I did look at Carrick and I thought Carrick was an excellent footballer. He was intelligent. He could read the game very well. And he's one of them players you sort of looked at and thought the type of player he was when he was at Manchester United. When he retires, he probably will make a good manager, almost a bit like Vincent Kompany at Burnley, a good leader. You get the impression he'd be a good manager, which he's turned out to be at Burnley. And I think sort of they'd both be in the same bracket sort of players you looked at and thought they'll be good managers. And of course, Carrick's come in and really shown what he can do. Like I say, the best football I've seen from a Middlesbrough team in my life. But I thought he'd be a great appointment at the time, which he's turning out to be. But what were your initial thoughts on when he was first appointed?
Yeah, I agree. I was quite excited about that. I mean, it took a number of weeks because I think we were linked with him,
Yeah,
and then apparently something happened. I'm not quite sure what, but meant that Leo was managing for a couple of more weeks than I think most people thought. And then all of a sudden, Carrick was back in the thing because everyone thought he wasn't going to become manager because apparently he wasn't allowed to bring his own coaching staff or whatever. And then, yeah, we were looking at different managers, and then all of a sudden he's back in. So when he got appointed straight away, there was a feel good factor back
yeah.
again because of the name. He's worked under obviously Sir Alex Ferguson, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, even for England, people like Capello and some top managers, with amazing CVs, and he's got a winning mentality, and he's got that name, he's got that pedigree. He's worked and played with some amazing players, Rooney, Ronaldo, Rio Ferdinand, Berbatov, Tevez. You could go on and on. Ryan Giggs, Paul
The list
Scholes,
would,
like
yeah.
so. Yeah, the list is just endless. Vidic, Evra, like some top players, and all he knows is winning. And I think that really got me excited because I think that's something that we needed. We needed someone that could have that winning mentality, not thinking, oh yeah, let's just settle for, being mid-table or whatnot. We I want this team to be winning, and he came in, and I know we lost the first game against Preston, but
He's only been in a matter of days, hasn't he? So
yeah,
I think that one
exactly.
he's still getting to know the players, which he even came out and said in his interview.
Exactly, and he basically picked pretty much the same starting 11 for the first few games. I think the only change that he really made was, I think, Marcus Force for Rodrigo. But everyone
Yeah,
else was virtually the same team. He stuck with Stefan in goal, Tommy Smith at right back, Giles left back, Lenihan and Fry in the middle, Howson and Hackney, two centre mids. On the right, Jones on the left, McGree, and then you had Tuba just behind Rodrigo, and then we took Rodrigo out, put in Force, I think, for the whole game. And he just stuck with that team virtually, on a good run of form, and he kind of picked that same 11 until we made, I think, a couple of changes. I think it was Blackburn away when he put Force on the right, and Crooks up front. Um, and yeah, he's made a couple of changes here and there, but it's been virtually the same team, and that just goes to show if you're playing well, he'll stick with you. But you need strength and depth so the players can push each other really, really harder. And he showed different types of wins since he's come as the manager. So yeah, it was a really promising appointment, and I was really excited to see what he could bring.
I feel like what he's done for this Middlesbrough team has been sensational, going from 1 point of relegation to currently where we are now in February 3rd. It's looking promising, and I do strongly believe we will be in the playoffs come the end of the season. I think it would take a bad run of form for us to drop out now, because I feel apart from the top two, we're probably the strongest team in the league now. And I mean, what he's done for players, well, Hayden Hackney's been an absolute revelation. He's such a good player in that midfield. Marcus Force is like a different player. You've got more as well. You've got like the likes of Tuba, who I don't know what happens to him. I don't know what he eats for his breakfast before a match day, but he's just unbelievable, and just all the players, the way they're playing now and everything, and the way he's got this group playing is just amazing. And I'm just really excited of what's to come. But I was going to, what do you think has been the difference between Carrick and Wilder? Because it's the same group of players, but Carrick has just literally come in and really got this group playing to where it should be because it's a strong squad.
Yeah, I just think it's Carrick's calmness. Like
Yeah,
we win a game and he's just so calm. We lose a game and he's just so calm. He doesn't get carried away with anything, and that's literally how he's always been. Um, he just seems to be someone that's. He looks like an honest manager as well.
yeah, he's dead
Um,
really down to earth. I'd say like just
you could see that.
an
Yeah,
honest guy.
and I think the players like him, but also respect him because of what he's achieved. Um, but yeah, I just think it's just that calmness, like really, really calm, tactical awareness. He works really well with obviously Jonathan Woodgate. I think Woodgate's come in and he's been a big, big part of the coaching kind of duo. Um, but yeah, I've been really, really pleased with what he's done. His man management skills has been really, really good. He's obviously given a few tactical instructions to people like Chuba, playing him in like the hole as a number 10, and he's become like a different player there. Ryan Giles on the left hand side has just stepped up. He's performing even better. You've got McGree kind of on the left hand side ish, but kind of cutting in that allows Ryan Giles, the whole left hand side to really, really attack. Howson and Hackney have got a really good partnership. It's just it's a good team. It's not just good individuals. It's a good team. There's a good balance, and we're playing really, really well. And I just hope it continues. Obviously we've brought in Ramsey and we've brought in Barlassa.
Archer
Are gonna,
too looks
Archer,
very.
yeah, forgot about him. Yeah, Cameron Archer being a terrific signing up front. He's really good against Watford. Unlucky to score, not to score, but yeah, he's been a terrific signing. So I think the three signings have been really, really positive. I know Watmore going was a bit of a disappointment because I think he's always a good option to have on the bench, but then at the same time, would he have had minutes with Ramsey coming in and Cameron
Yeah,
Archer as well? So I think it's just about having strength and depth and players knowing that they can obviously come in and perform.
And Watmore definitely got a positive send off as well, didn't he? Because I think Borough fans did really like him from his 2.5 years at the club, 2 years, and it's just amazing what Carrick's done. Really, and like I said, I think he's probably just like he's a calm guy, which I think the players probably take too. But he kind of like has a lot of people moving about as well, doesn't he? Like there's a lot of people who sort of are on free roam and move around a lot, like switch about all over the pitch, but. Sheffield United, like big talking point. What do you think of them? Because I know they've got a very strong squad. As it stands, there are a lot of points ahead of us. It's not impossible, but it's going to be tough, and it's going to really be needed for them to sort of have a decline, which needs to be a big one, kind of. But do you think they're catchable? Because the Championship's a weird league; anything can happen, and I do strongly believe that we could still be in with a chance. It's going to be tough, but I definitely wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, you can't rule it out because, like you said, it's the championship. Anyone can beat anyone.
Yeah,
And in the grand scheme of things, I think it's only really 3 games that we have to win. And one of them's against, or was it 4 games? And one of them's against Sheffield United because we've got to play Sheffield United. So if because I think we're 10 points behind them. So if we could make, I know they've got a game in hand, but we could make it up. Um, by hopefully beating them. But we've just got to focus on ourselves. If we win the majority of our games, then I think we can make the playoffs. If we make if we win in a lot of games, but still not good enough to finish second, then it won't be the end of the world because we'll be entering the playoffs in such a good run of form, good momentum. Um, so for me, it's a win-win. So we just got to keep winning. If we can make second, great. If not, no problem. We're going to the playoffs in good momentum, good run of form, and like anyone can beat anyone. And what I've been really pleased about is the last few weeks we've beaten potential teams that we could play in the
yeah.
playoffs. We've beaten Norwich, we've beaten Luton, we've beaten Blackburn, and we've beaten Watford. They're teams that are all in and around us. We could easily play any one of those sides in the playoffs, but we've beaten all of them. So that's what gives me real confidence.
I think the key to the championship, in my opinion, is consistency because it's such a weird league. Anybody can beat anybody. And I think, like you picked up on earlier, we've beaten a mix of teams. We've beaten like the teams at the bottom, the teams near the top, and mid table teams as well. Whereas other Borough sides have potentially not been able to beat the best teams. Then there's been other weird situations where the Borough teams have beaten the best teams and then slipped up to the not so good teams. But like you said, I think Carrick's got us playing consistently. Yeah, we got beat to Sunderland, but I wasn't too disappointed. I thought we've had a great run of form. A defeat's going to come eventually. Tony Mowbray is a good manager. He's got a good team there at Sunderland, but I didn't doubt us after that. I knew we'd probably come back and respond, and I fancied us to beat Watford. And we just look like a team that can respond from a defeat, and we look really consistent.
100%, and like I said, the key is keeping players fit because if we get 1 or 2 injuries, it could be a bit of a problem. But we've got strength and depth now. So if Chuba was to get injured, I wouldn't feel too disappointed because I know we've got other options in the team. You know what I mean? I know he scores lots of goals, but look at the last 2 games, we've got clean sheets. And I think if we can keep those clean sheets, we've got lots of players in the team that can get the odd goal here and there.
Yeah.
Force and McGree and Archer will get his goal soon. You've got Crooks. So, like, I feel confident that we've got enough goals about us. We're getting clean sheets now. So even if Tuba was to get injured, which is a possibility, I've got real confidence that we could always nick a goal and win 1-0 or 2-1 or whatever kind of thing. Obviously, having Tuba's like the X factor player because he can make the scoreline a lot bigger, 2, 3, or 4, whatever. Um, but we just need to keep as much players fit as possible, and hopefully we don't get a huge injury crisis where we've got like 6 or 7 players out injured, which I've seen other teams have. And I mean, even if you look in like the Premier League, you've seen teams like Chelsea and Liverpool and whatnot have a few injuries, and the impact that it has on those teams. So if it has impact on some of the best teams in the country, then it can certainly have a big impact on ourselves. So yeah, we've just got to keep going, win as each game as it comes, and we'll see where we come in the last game against Coventry at home. See, what we've got to play for. But I'm confident.
As we speak, we're in February. There's three months left 3 full months almost before the season finishes in May. How are you feeling towards the end of the season? Let's make a prediction. What do you think the top 6 is going to be, Yusuf? Let's both give our predictions each. I
All
think
right. So yeah,
ultimately, I think Burnley will win the league. I think they look a
yeah,
very, very strong side. I mean, I think the way we were playing under Carrick, we went down, we were outclassed by them. I think Company's got a great side there. They've got good players to begin with. He's changed his style of football. It's worked for the better, and I think they will come out with the league title in May.
yeah. I agree. They're by far the best side in the division in the league. We've obviously got to play them as well. I think in April, but we're at home, so that's obviously going to be in our favour, hopefully, because we were quite unlucky. I thought when we went to Turf Moor, we could have got a point on another day, but a couple of individual errors cost us at the end.
Yeah,
But again, that shows the championship what it's like. You've got to be on your A game. If you don't, if you make one or two individual errors, that's what can happen. And we have to be aware that that could happen in any of the games. So yeah, I definitely think Burnley will yeah finish top, and then second will probably be Sheffield United. I think realistically,
yes.
but you never know. We could get second. Would you
Could
agree with that?
sneak in maybe,
Yeah,
but
possibly.
yeah, it's going to be tough. But I think if I have to, I think Sheffield United will do enough to finish second. Just purely the fact of how many points they're currently on. But I think if we'd have had Carrick a month earlier, it would have been us. But yeah,
Mm.
I believe we'll be the team that finishes third.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think we're the most consistent side out of that in the playoffs. I look at teams like Watford; they're a bit too inconsistent for me. They've
I
got some
didn't,
unbelievable players individually, but
yeah,
a bit inconsistent for me.
I didn't think too much of them when they came the other week. I actually believe this or not, but I actually thought Blackpool looked a better side than Watford. If I'm honest,
As a team, yeah, I think so. As a team,
yeah,
because on paper, Watford have got some unbelievable individuals, but for some reason, it's just not working as a team. But Blackpool definitely caused us a few problems. Stefan made, one or two key saves. We were just really, really clinical against them. That's why we got 3 goals. Watford, we could have been 3-4 up at half time. Like we had
yeah,
enough chances. So we should have. If anything, we should have probably beat Watford 3-0 and Blackpool 2-0. That would have probably been more of a fair reflection of the games, because certainly the Blackpool was probably a bit more tighter. Um, but yeah, Watford didn't look particularly great, but I still think they will sneak in the playoffs because they've got one or two individuals in that
yeah.
team that I think is going to make the huge difference. So I think they'll probably finish fourth, maybe.
Yeah,
We'll get third, but I can see them fourth.
it's the two players have got Sarr and Pedro,
Yeah.
two Premier League quality players. They'll probably feel a bit gutted they never managed to get a move, but it's sort of if them two can click, I think it'll really inspire them with them keeping hold of Pedro as well after a linked move to Everton. If them two can really click, they'll probably inspire the rest of the team. Then you're probably right. They will probably find themselves in the playoffs. And another team that I believe will be in next, I think they've got a fantastic manager. He was somebody who I wanted when Wilder was sacked before we got Michael Carrick, which is West Brom with Carlos Corberan, a fantastic manager. You just look at what he did with Huddersfield last season. He's gone into West Brom. He's got a good squad to start with on paper, the likes of John Swift and Jed Wallace, who are two really creative players, Carl and Grant. But a good team, and he's got them playing well, getting them back up to where they should be. And I believe come the end of the season, West Brom will be in that mix.
Yeah, I agree. The two informed sides is obviously ourselves and West Brom, so it wouldn't surprise me if we play them in the playoffs. Certainly in like the final, if not the semi. Obviously depends on where we finish and they finish. So yeah, I think they've got like an unbelievable manager. Corberan's obviously did well with Huddersfield a few years back, and he's just got that great managerial ability. And yeah, West Brom are always a good side. Obviously, we play them in a couple of weeks, so we've got a few tests in the next few weeks that will tell us where we are, and certainly West Brom away is going to be one of them. And that's probably a game that we can't lose. It's one of those games where I want to win every game, but that's a game that we just can't afford to lose. I think a draw will be perfect. But they're at home, so they're going to probably think they've got to beat us. But me personally, I'd take a draw against West Brom
We
every
usually
day.
we usually fare quite well, don't we, at the Hawthorns?
Mm,
I think
we do.
the last few years we've come away with some good results, which it's a tough place to go. So I think we've even won sometimes. And I think coming away from the Hawthorns with a draw is something you certainly take.
For sure, yeah. Obviously, last season we drew 1-1, but I think previous two times we beat them, I think 2-0, Ashley Fletcher from like the
Yeah.
halfway line. That was brilliant. And then I think, yeah, before Britt Sombalonga coming off the bench to score two late winners, winning 3-2. So, yeah, we've had some good away days at West Brom the last couple of seasons, but it's obviously it's a new season, it's a different season, different team. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. But yeah, I can see them finishing fourth, fourth or fifth. It's between them and Watford, I think, to get fourth. I can see them definitely getting into the playoffs.
And then we've got one more team, and for me, it's between three teams. There's Luton. Rob Edwards has come in, really turned them around. They're very strong at the minute, but whether they have the squad to keep it up to the last hurdle, I'm not sure. No disrespect to any Luton fans, but whether the squad is strong enough, I'm not sure. Sunderland, I think, got a good manager in Tony Mowbray. They've got some good players, but losing Ross Stewart for the rest of the season's a massive blow. So that's going to be a big problem for them. And the final one I'd say is potentially Norwich City. Oh, and then actually there's four because you've got Blackburn as well, who seem to be a bit inconsistent. They'll win one, lose one. But if you were to look at them four teams, who do
Mm.
you fancy to check that last playoff spot?
I'll be honest, I don't think Norwich or Sunderland will, personally. I don't think they will.
No.
Yeah, I just don't think they Sunderland obviously losing Ross Stewart is going to be a massive impact. Norwich, for me, they're too inconsistent. We obviously went to Carrow Road and
Beat
won
them.
there. That was a really good result. I think you've also missed another good side that I think might get in there is Millwall. Millwall look
Yeah,
a real
yes, they're having a
good
fairly
side.
decent
They look,
start.
yeah, they look because obviously they've got in Duncan Watmore and typical. I can
Yeah.
see him getting them a few goals to get in there. But yeah, it's tough. So yeah, Luton, Millwall, Blackburn. Yeah, I think it'll be between two. But then Hull City are an unbelievable run of form as well under Rossini, because I think there's only like three teams in the championship or four teams or whatever that have
Yeah, I
got
see.
more points.
Yeah.
That was the stat that I saw.
I hope we
So
don't come up against Aaron Connolly in the
can you
playoffs.
imagine? Can you imagine? There's quite a few sides because obviously you've got Watford, you've got British Sombalonga, you've got who else? You've got Millwall with Watmore and George Saville. You've got obviously Sunderland with Tony Mowbray. Like there's a few teams where there's Blackburn with Danny Ayala. Like you can just see one of these players are going to haunt us
Yeah.
because you know what I mean. It's just there's just so many things where you just think, oh, they're gonna haunt us a little bit. Um, but who would get a sixth spot?
I have a feeling if I was to put money out, I think Luton might just do enough to stay in there.
Maybe, but at the same time, they're just for me, they just I don't know. I think Millwall are a better side, so I'd say
Yeah.
Millwall for me. I think Millwall for me because they look. I mean, Millwall looked really good when they played us at home a couple of weeks back. They like
Yeah.
they could have got a better result. We were quite. I mean, we were hanging on at the end. Do you know what I mean? Did we win 1-0? Was it against Millwall?
Yeah, it was quite tight, wasn't it? Mill against Millwall. Yeah, there were a very strong physical, a
I
very
can't remember.
strong physical. I think it was 1-0, wasn't it?
Probably, yeah, because we look really,
Yeah.
really, yeah, solid. And because I think is it so? Does that mean it was three consecutive clean sheets then? Millwall, Watford, and Blackpool at home.
That that was it. Yeah, three constant. Yeah.
So yeah, Millwall looked really good. We were hanging on at the end. Like Watford didn't get us doing that. Like these teams didn't get us doing it. Like, but Millwall did. They just threw everything at us. But again, I spoke about Carrick getting different types of wins. That was a different type of win. You need one of them ugly wins where the defenders, like I remember, Lenihan was injured that game, but McNair at the back was sensational. I thought alongside Fry, both of them were really, really good. Zach Steffen made a couple of good saves as well. So it was really, really good. So I think for me, Millwall, I think, will sneak and get a sixth spot. So that if we finish third, we'll probably play Millwall in the semi-final, and then in the final, it'll probably be us against West Brom. I can see West Brom beating Watford, and it'll be us. So that's my prediction: us against West Brom in the final, and then yeah, probably John Swift always does well against us. I can imagine him. Jed Wallace is another one. Like yeah, players always do really really well against us, but yeah, and I can see us sneakily beating West Brom in the final.
There were two players I'd really love at the Borough, actually, Swift and Wallace. I think they're two very good technical players who I believe would be really good in Carrick's team. But yeah, the strong players, and I think if West Brom can really get them two playing like they have recently, I think they'll be in there. So I believe it's going to be us, West Brom final, and I think we'll do enough, and I think we'll go up. I've just got a really good feeling this season.
It'll be nice, yeah. It'll be really, really nice, just to end a successful season on a high, you know. But the momentum just needs to keep going. Everyone seems really, really happy. The players, like if you see us scoring goals, all the players celebrate together. Do you know what I mean? Young and old, sometimes there can be a bit of a division, but you're seeing the players really getting involved. They're so happy for each other. I think Chuba scored the first goal and Ryan Giles kind of pushed him towards the fans to let him soak in that love. There's such a real good feel good factor. If you look at even on the bench, I saw a video from what's his name? Daryl Johnson does his football stand, and he sits like behind the. Give him a little shout out. He sits behind the dugout, and I think it was the game against Watford, and I think we scored a couple of goals. And you can just see Matt Crooks like he was on the bench, but he's really celebrating as if he scored, kind of thing. Whereas normally when players are on the bench that were big parts of the team, they might feel a little bit like downhearted or jealous. But you're seeing Crooks celebrating like, "Come on," kind of thing, and that just tells me everything about the squad. It's a real. That's exactly what it is. It's a squad. I'm really, really happy about that.
Absolutely, and long may it continue. Yusuf, it's been a pleasure to welcome you back on today. I'll tell
Thank
you
you.
what we'll have to do. Obviously, I've got my radio show, which the Thursday after the final match of the season, I'll invite you. I'll invite you onto that show, and we'll have to have a chat on air. We'll have to have a chat on air, and we'll have to review our little playoff prediction and see how close we came to actually getting it right.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of football. I mean, I've made many predictions over the years. Some have gone completely, wrong. There's one or two that, I've been proud to say, was correct. I mean, I tipped Isaiah Jones to have a breakthrough season. Not many people knew about him, a couple of years ago, but I always knew he was going to have his breakthrough season, But yeah, there's one or two other predictions that I've made that have been a bit like, oh, so it's just that's the beauty of football. You just never know. It's some of them are going to be right, some of them are going to be wrong, but you've got to. I mean, I'm not one for sitting on the fence, so I'll just say it how it is. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure you're the same as well.
Yusuf, thank you so much, mate. It's been a pleasure to chat.
Anytime, Baker, just keep doing what you're doing, and I'll keep watching all your videos. You've come such a long way in the last couple of years, and it's great that you've carried on that, that desire to continue to improve and just that confidence. I can see a different, more confident, Baker in the interviews, and you just got to keep going, and you never know where it can take you. It could take you right to the top. You might be having your own, show in the future. Do you know what I mean? So you just never know.
That's it, and thank you for the kind words, and happy 2-year anniversary to Baker's Chatcast.
Of course, no problem, Baker. Like I said, keep doing what you're doing.